Hi everyone, welcome back to another edition of Couch Cruisers. Today we're going to be looking at dinghies, which are also called yacht tenders. They're the little boat that you use to get from your cruising ship to and from land or wherever that you need to go. There's a lot to take into consideration when picking your dinghy, and I'd like to take a look at some of those. Like all types of boating, when you're cruising, you need to pick a dinghy that's going to be appropriate for your needs. There are three main categories with subcategories of dinghies that you could select from. There's inflatable, and in the inflatable category there are roll-up inflatables and rigid inflatables, where the hull is made out of fiberglass or aluminum, and then they have pontoons that go around the outside that are inflatable. In the foldable category, the only one I've seen is porta-bote, and we will look at that. And then the rigid could be aluminum, it could be fiberglass, or some other material. The dinghy that you select, you first need to choose how are you planning on powering it. If you're only going to be rowing it, you might as well forget inflatables. They row terribly. The foldable edition rows decently, and the rigid ones would row very well if you plan on getting around rowing. The thing about picking a boat, depending on only the type of power though, is it doesn't take into consideration several other factors. Depending on the size of your mothership, you need to figure out where are you going to store your dinghy and how are you going to get it in and out of the water. And not only how are you going to get the dinghy in and out of the water, but if you're going to be using a motor, an outboard motor on your dinghy, how are you going to get that dinghy in and out of the water? Inflatables require the largest engine of any of the types of boats if you want to get them up on plane. So you see here I have rated the different types of dinghies and then given them a 1 through 5 star rating for the different categories that would be important to you as a cruiser. One that I'm looking at for myself is stowing. Where am I going to put the thing so that it's out of the way, because I'm not going to have a huge boat when I go. And durability. I want to be able to bang it up against the dock. I want to be able to drag it up on the beach without it popping. I'm not a fan of inflatables. Having had one, I found that it was continually out of air and I was continually having to pump it up. That's not to say there's not great things about them. They do roll up very small if you get the roll up kind. They are relatively light and they are extremely stable, because before the boat can rock much, it has to sink those air-filled pontoons under the water. If you've ever tried to sink a basketball in the pool, you know exactly how buoyant a filled up thing of air is. Nothing really earth-shattering here. Everybody knows a fiberglass rigid boat is heavier than an inflatable boat. What I would like to look at are some unique types of dinghies I found when doing research for this video. So in the rigid category of dinghies, one I thought was really cool is a nesting rigid dinghy. Then you have the advantages of having a rigid dinghy where it will row good, it will sail decently, and you have some of the advantages of stowing where the two parts nest within each other. Down at the bottom you can see the link if you want to go and find more information on those. One thing I thought was cool about this was not only that the two halves nested for stowage on deck, but that you could assemble them in water, because the whole boat, each half, was unsinkable. So you could throw both halves in the water, jump in one half, and seat the two together, and they don't require any tools to snap together. Another type of dinghy that I thought was really cool was a rigid hull inflatable that actually rolled up. I guess fold would probably be more appropriate than rolling. Now there are weight disadvantages to having a rigid hull inflatable. They're the heaviest of any type, but then just the size and the convenience of this boat I thought was great. And if you need to pull it up on the beach or something, you've at least got that fiberglass bottom protecting it a little bit. If you want more information on this type of boat, there at the top right, you can see the link to that website, windboat.com. Now this is just one type of inflatable. They also have completely roll-up ones that you would stuff in a bag, and ones where the rigid bottom does not fold up and you have to stow them on deck. Finally, one of the favorite types of boats that I found when looking at these is a folding boat, and these are from porta-bote. The first time I ever saw one of these boats was actually on YouTube. I was watching the sailing channel Sailing Uma. If you haven't checked them out, I would highly recommend them. They're very interesting. They do a lot of boat projects. I like watching their fiberglass work. They actually replumbed their whole boat using PVC, which I thought was interesting. But anyway, they're cruising around the Caribbean and they're using one of these folding boats or folding dinghies. And what I thought was cool about these is they fold up to just 4 inches wide by 24 inches tall by the length that you select. And you can see there in that image down at the bottom left how well they stow along the lifeline. And I thought that was great. You got a nice, large, stable boat that you can get completely out of the way, because does the 4 inches against the lifeline really matter? What were you using that part for anyway? As long as you have a decent walk around side of your deck, there's plenty of room for one of these. So after looking at the different dinghies and the weights and the stowability and some of the drawbacks, like always having to pump up an inflatable, I think when I end up going cruising, this will be the option that I select. And I think I would probably go for the 10-foot model just because of the weight to get it in and out of the water. And I think having 3 seats is more than enough. However, if you need to take more people with you or you need more carrying capacity, inflatables do have the largest carrying capacity, about 1,000 pounds more than this foldable. Some interesting things that I ran into when doing research for this video: there's actually sailing options for all 3 types of dinghies. So if you get an inflatable, a rigid, or the folding porta-boat, there are sailing options for all of them. In looking at them though, they seem to require some fairly complex setup if it's not a specifically designed sailing dory in order to make them able to sail. And once you add that stuff on, you're greatly increasing the cost of the dinghy and the amount of stuff you have to store and rig in order to be able to do it. So if that's something you plan on doing a lot, or if you're going to sail it as your primary means of propulsion, then maybe that would be something for you. For me, I think the complexity, the cost, and storing all of it is more than I want to deal with, and I'll just slap an outboard and a set of oars on mine. The other thing that I know came across when researching this is unsinkable is a relative description. It seems that unsinkable to dinghy manufacturers means that when it's swamped and full of water, it's not going to end up on the bottom of the ocean. Looking at pictures of different models being swamped, some of them sit nice and upright on the surface of the water, and it's like sitting in a kiddie pool at the swim pool. And some of them aren't sunk to the bottom, but all that's sticking out is the bow, and the rest of the entire boat is underwater. So when looking for a dinghy, you may want to figure out what does exactly this manufacturer mean by unsinkable. Anyway, I hope you guys liked the quick video. Thank you again for watching. I look forward to your comments and your feedback. If there's something in particular you'd like to see a video on, go ahead and drop me a comment. Thank you much. Have a good day.